Welcome to today's European SharePoint Community Webinar. My name is Declan and I'm delighted to be joined by David Lavenda, who will be talking to you about if emails are documents, why is it so hard to store them in SharePoint, the challenge of email management using SharePoint. David Lavenda is Vice President of Product Strategy at Harmony, an innovative provider of collaboration products for the digital workplace. David is a regular contributor at Fast Company. David has recently completed a graduate degree in Science, Technology and Society, investigating how information overload in organizations has evolved since the introduction of email. David is also an international scholar for the Society for the History of Technology. Remember to join in the conversation about today's webinar on Twitter. Our Twitter handle is @EuropeanSP and our hashtag is ESPC15. Of course, David and the Harmony team will be at European SharePoint Conference 2015 in Stockholm this November, along with some of the top names in SharePoint. And we're delighted to announce that Jeff Teeper, yes, you heard me, Jeff Teeper, will join Seth Patton and Bill Baer for the opening keynote, where they will share their roadmap for SharePoint and OneDrive. Currently, there are some great early booking offers, but hurry as you have until next week, Friday, September 18th, until this offer closes. Go to www.sharepointeurope.com for more information. And now I'm going to pass over to our webinar presenter today, David Lavenda. Hello, David.
Hello, thank you, and welcome to today's webinar. Before we start the actual presentation, I'd like to start with a poll question to get your input on some important issues of the day. Yep, so we're going to ask you, why do you need to retain your emails? And you feel free to select all these that apply to retain as records or for retaining knowledge. Do you need to manage projects, products, clients, or cases? Do you need to archive them for corporate requirements, or do you need to keep them for regulatory or industry government requirements? Or maybe you don't need to retain them at all, which would be also a possibility. So I'll give you a few moments to weigh in. The numbers are coming in. We'll share those with you in just a moment. And this would be some good input as a precursor to talking about why, if emails are documents, why don't we treat them as such? And we'll be sharing some information about both the challenges and some ways to use SharePoint to manage your emails as documents. Okay, so let's share the results. And let's see what we got. So about 2/3 say that you need to retain emails as records, 82% for managing projects, so that's quite a high number, and others for archiving, and 35% for government or industry compliance. So only 4% of you said you don't need to retain emails, and that makes sense for because that's pretty much what we see in the marketplace today, that emails are just another form of documents. So that's actually a good starting point to talk about a little bit of the history of documents and emails. So historically, emails started out really as just communications, as a way to exchange near real-time messages between people inside and outside of companies. In parallel, documents, they did the heavy lifting in companies. They did things like contracts, proposals, project specifications, product specifications. Those were the kind of things that were shared in documents and actually were described in documents. And because of this parallel development of two types of electronic document, two different types of technologies grew up in parallel. So for email, we've got lots of different types of email servers. Exchange is Microsoft one. There was one IBM, of course, Google, Gmail. And in parallel, we've developed an entire set of document management systems. The most popular one today, of course, is SharePoint. And that's the one we'll be talking about today. But now, as time has progressed, just a simple example that we're showing here is that emails really fulfill a lot of the requirements or a lot of the work that documents have traditionally done. So things like work orders, task management, Even things like approving a proposal, like you see here. So someone specifies the engagement in terms of some sort of an engagement, and somebody accepts those terms. That email becomes a document of record, identically to the one you see on the right side of the screen, which is the traditional way of expressing the same type of information. So it doesn't make sense anymore to treat these differently. Yet we're really kind of stuck with the legacy of technology in that we have one technology for email and one technology for documents. But because emails are documents, we already have a technology for storing and classifying and being able to use that for records and all sorts of other type of managing documents, and that's SharePoint. We bought SharePoint to manage documents, and that does a great job for that. But you can't manage emails in SharePoint. And as we said, emails being just another form of a document, you can't do that. That's become a completely different silo. So what we end up with is a situation like you see here in front of you, which is that emails are stored in Exchange, documents are stored in SharePoint. And the meaning of that is that they not only are physically located in two different places, but they also have different, the artifacts themselves are classified differently. You have to search in two different places to find each one of them. And if you're working on a project or a case or a client, where you have some documentation is email and some are actual other forms of documents, it really doesn't make sense to have those stored in two places. So what's developed is what we call the SharePoint Exchange gap, where you really have two different fiefdoms. So for compliance, you need to produce documents, say for liability. You need to perhaps find information when people are out of the office for knowledge retention type of applications. Many companies have to undergo audits to be able to produce documents for a whole variety of reasons, and even things like managing projects, just being able to stay on top of things. If you're looking for information, you're looking for information about a meeting summary, you're looking for information about a proposal that's been given to a customer, or a product specification, or an update on where we are perhaps in some sort of process, what you need to do now is really to start looking in two separate places using two different strategies for finding that information, and that's really a problem. So what we're proposing is email's a document, let's store it all in the document management system, which is SharePoint. But that actually turns out not to be so easy to do, because what you need to do in order to be able to supply that, or that capability, or to be able to really share emails and use emails in SharePoint, are really four different things. And it's for example, the first one is you need to obviously be able to share or upload or store an email from an Outlook into SharePoint. Now, there's really no practical way to do that today, and even if there was a way to do that, it really wouldn't be easy to do that. You'd have to train people to save emails as files and then somehow upload those as documents in SharePoint, and then you wouldn't be able to find them afterwards. And just that process of requiring people to do something differently, that changing their behavior, that's where it really becomes hard. It's not so much the technology that's hard to use, it's people's user behavior and getting them to be able to do things differently to produce the results that you want. And secondly, even if you were able to get them to upload those emails into SharePoint, they wouldn't be classified properly. All you get would just be a file. Now, how would you ever find that file? How would you even know it's in that file afterwards to be able to find them? So the emails have to have the same metadata structure as all the other documents, so they can be treated as such, and they can be found later on using the same strategies for finding documents and previewing documents that you normally do for other types of documentation. And if documents are not classified properly, of course, it becomes impossible to retrieve them. So when you have those needs, those business needs, like the audits or the compliance, or the searching for information for knowledge retention, you need to be able to find those emails quickly. And these are really business goals. This is not an IT exercise. This is really being able to use the emails in a sense to fulfill the business requirements of the project that you're working on. And lastly, today emails are no longer just messages, and they're not just proposals or work orders, but emails have really turned into collaborative documents. I mean, just think about an example of you attend a meeting and somebody sends out a meeting summary. You want to send it around for comments before sharing it with the customer or partner who was a part of that meeting. Or you're using the emails to summarize project status or product updates. So any type of this internal review, if you just send emails out to 10 people and they all answer you again, you're going to have the same chaos that you have when you do use email document attachments, which is you'll get multiple copies back. People find it very hard to find the latest copy, conflicting information. So being able to collaborate on emails as if they were just other types of documents is really critical, and that's really difficult to do, in fact impossible to do out of the box today with SharePoint. So the result, because you can't share emails together with documents, you end up with failed initiatives. So if you're looking to retain information, you can't find it because you don't know where to look. You end up having to search, but you're not even sure what you're supposed to search for because the information's spread all over the place. And the same thing for managing projects or clients or records. It's basically the same story all over again. If you can't store information easily, classify it easily, have a way to retrieve it easily, your business initiatives, not your IT initiatives, your business initiatives will not be able to succeed. So is all lost? Of course not. That's why we're here today. We're talking about Harmony, and we're going to be showing you just briefly exactly how this works in practice to make it really simple, and how actually big companies today are already doing this and realizing the value of using emails as documents by sharing them in SharePoint. But before we go to the live demo, we're going to ask another polling question. So get your buzzers ready. We're going to be asking you to weigh in on another important topic. And the question here is, at what organizational levels do you need to store emails together with documents? So it could be at the department, at the project, at the site, at the division, corporate-wide. Again, select all that apply. So in some cases, you may need to be able to do this at different levels of the organization. So click in, and we're starting to see the results piling in as we speak. Wow, well, we're going to see some very interesting results in just one moment. We'll give it just a few more seconds for the people to finish voting. Okay, I think we're about there. Let's share the results. And what we see is that 72% of you said that you need to do this at the departmental level, 85% at the project level. That's really high. And then the numbers are smaller for site and division, and about half. That's quite surprising. Half of you said that this is a necessary requirement at the corporate-wide level. So that's quite. That looks like it's really an important requirement. So let's show, for all you who need to do this, let's show you how to make this really simple, and to be able to do this literally today using the tools that you already own. So what you see on the screen right now in front of you is your Outlook window, and this should be familiar to all of you. But what you'll notice is on the right side of the screen, there's the Harmony window, and what the Harmony window here is showing is a view into your SharePoint world. So what you see here is a level of your SharePoint hierarchy, and of course you can navigate the hierarchy, go up the tree, look at documents, open documents, and so on. We're going to just show you how you can do the same type of capabilities today for emails. So some of you may be familiar with Harmony and its document capabilities, but you may not be aware that the same type of sharing links, being able to use metadata for retaining information and classifying information is also available for emails. So as remember, we said that there are 4 requirements to be able to use SharePoint as a way to store emails as documents. The first one was to store the information. So how do you get an email from your Outlook inbox into SharePoint. So the easiest way to do this is literally to take the email and drag it from the Outlook window directly into the Harmony SharePoint window. And you'll see that the document, the email doc as a document, is automatically uploaded to SharePoint. Now what you'll notice, I'm going to right-click on this. You can also see very quickly that we can see the metadata has been. I'm going to show the properties of that email. You'll see that the headers from the email, so things like subject, from, to, received, these have automatically been converted to SharePoint metadata columns. So this information doesn't have to be done manually. Just by dragging that email in, we've automatically captured SharePoint metadata, and this will be important for being able to retrieve it later. So this automated classification capability is absolutely critical to being able to use SharePoint as a way to store emails. And you'll notice that you don't even have to change user behavior because users don't really need to learn anything. All you need to do is to be able to teach them how to drag it into the window, which is very simple, because they're spending their entire day anyway in email, so it's really no problem. By the way, you'll also notice that the email, to the left side of the email, there's a new icon which shows that email has now been stored in SharePoint. So even from the Outlook inbox, there's an indication that this information is already, this email message has already been stored in SharePoint. You also can see that it's been categorized, so you can also be able to find this, you know where it's stored in SharePoint directly from here. So, for example, if we open the email up, you can see it at the top. It says SharePoint. You save this message in projects and meetings, projects and project docs. So you know directly already, even in the email message itself, where it was stored in SharePoint. Of course, we don't rely upon this as the only way to be able to find this, and we'll show you just in a moment how easy it is to find that. But before we show you how easy it is to find that, there's also another way to save an email on SharePoint. So if you open up an email message and you want to just save it, instead of dragging it into the SharePoint, the Harmony SharePoint window, you can just click on Save Message. In this case, the message is uploaded directly to SharePoint. In this case, you also have the ability to save it in a different location, perhaps a favorite, a recent location, or even to browse and store it wherever you want in SharePoint. So there's some added flexibility in being able to do it that way. But again, nobody's left the window that they spend their workday in. Everybody is in the same place that they spend probably 90% of their day. Okay, so we showed how easy it is to upload and store an email message into SharePoint. Now let's see how easy it is to retrieve that message. So we showed you that also we capture the metadata automatically from the headers. So let's see how we can find some information that we're looking for. So one way to do this is to use tags. So some of this information may be tagged. I'm going to be looking for one for the exploration project, and literally by searching for that, you can see here that I've got a couple of documents, but I also have a bunch of email messages. So I'm able to, again, emails are treated exactly as documents, and they just appear here as any other form of document, which is really, at the end of the day, what the overall goal is that it's just another form of communication or information that we need to be able to find. Another way to find information is just to search. So we can use SharePoint search capabilities. We're going to search for the word change, and you'll see that again, I've got some documents here, driving change. I've got some other types of documents, and you also notice at the bottom I have an email message, and I want to see what that email message is about, so I can just highlight that, right-click, show preview, and see that email message right here directly, again, without having to change context, without having to go to another application or open another window. It's all shown right in the email window where I spend my workday. So it really can't get any simpler than that. And we also said that one of the things that you want to be able to do with emails is to treat them just like a document in the sense of collaborating with them, being able to share them internally before perhaps sending them out to a customer or a partner or supplier. with information that has to be okayed or approved internally by supervisors or by colleagues. So what we can do here is very simply just create an email. And this email, in our case, is going to be to describe a meeting summary that we had internally, but also that we had together with a customer. But I want to make sure that I captured all the meeting details correctly before I share them with the customer. So I prepared that email with all the details. But now, instead of sending that to all these people that may be on this list, in this case I only have 2, but it may be 10 or 20 people. What would normally happen was I would send an email to 10, 20 people. They would all answer, each one with a potentially conflicting answer that I would then have to somehow reconcile. But we look at this exactly as the way documents work. So what we do is you click on Save Draft Message, and in a similar way to you work with documents, you upload this email message directly to SharePoint, and this email message can now be shared internally with others. People can work on it just like they were working on a SharePoint document, make their comments, update the document, and you see it here. And then finally, when they're finished working on it and all the comments have come in and everybody's ready to go, you can literally just send that document off. You can send that email message off. So we're going to open it up very shortly here. Now you have the message, so okay, we got all the information we need. We're going to take off the team any comments because we got all our comments, and we're just going to send it off now to the customer. You just click send. Now the email goes out to the customer. Okay, and if we use the Save on Send button, it would also, the final email would have been saved as well to SharePoint. Just as an aside, everything we're showing here that can be done in the Outlook email window can also be done through mobile devices. So if you're working on your iPad and you want to be able to share information in the same way or treat emails in the same way, it can be done also directly through Harmony's mobile products. So that's actually a perfect segue to talk about a little bit about Harmony and the product suite. So you've seen one application of the Harmony email capabilities. And what Harmony also supplies is not only the product that you saw today, which we've only seen really only a small subset of being able to work on SharePoint, but also use all your other Microsoft collaboration tools. So things like Yammer and Skype for Business and OneDrive for Business, all within a single window, which is email on the desktop. So that works in Outlook, it works in Lotus and Notes. And then there's also a series of products that do the same capabilities, a single screen experience for all your Microsoft collaboration tools directly on your mobile devices. So all your mobile platforms, iOS, Android, Microsoft, Windows Phone, and BlackBerry as well. And then there's also a version of the product which runs on Outlook web app as well. So it's a full range of products that cover every collaboration need that you have for getting the most out of the Microsoft collaboration tools that you already own, but probably aren't using to the full extent to get the business value out of them. Just another couple words about who Harmony is. So we have over 1.5 million enterprise licensed users. So we've been around for a while, and this is what we're showing you today is something which is being used by customers today. In fact, you can see on our website there's a very nice webinar that we did recently with Aon, where they described exactly what I showed you today and how they're using this to solve their business need for retaining knowledge in their organization for handling clients. That's a very exciting webinar to take a look at. Harmony, of course, has won a number of product awards, most notably a Best App Award from Microsoft. We work very closely together with Microsoft. We are also Microsoft Partner of the Year finalists for the SharePoint and Office application development category. So we've worked very closely together with Microsoft. We also have a similar capability for IBM Connections that we do together with IBM. Harmony has also been recognized by Gartner as a key mobile client and has also been singularly spotlighted in a Forrester report about being the solution for bridging the gap between email and SharePoint, and I invite you all to both look at those reports as well. Just a quick example of some of Harmony's spotlight customers who are using Harmony in some cases to do some of the things I showed today. So you see the names here, and the wide application of what Harmony provides is solutions, being able to control emails, control documents, classify them accurately, drive SharePoint adoption by making it super easy for people to get documents and emails into SharePoint and classified correctly. The integration between all the different Microsoft collaboration tools fulfill a wide range of requirements that fulfill all sorts of business application needs for things like records management, notes to Outlook migrations, mobile initiatives, knowledge management, social initiatives, ECM, and even things like Office 365 migration projects. So again, we invite you to visit the Harmony website and learn more about these specific case studies in detail. Okay, before we round up, I would just like to ask one last polling question, and this one is it's a much shorter one. Would you like to speak with a collaboration expert at Harmony? So it's yes or no. If your answer is yes, then put your email address in the questions pane. That we do know that there's a spelling error with questions, so you don't have to put that in the chat window. But yes, just enter your email address, and we'll be happy to follow up. Okay. Okay, and with that, there's a couple. We're going to show you a couple of links here to if you want to download Harmony email. There's a couple of QR codes, or to contact us. It's very easy to do so. And while we leave these this slide up, I'll pass control back to Declan and for some questions and answers.
Thank you, David, for a great presentation. We've a lot of questions coming in now at the moment. So just to start off, you showed how emails and documents can be combined in SharePoint from the desktop. What about if I'm using an iPad or smartphone?
Yeah. So I alluded to this at the end. We have tools. Harmony also runs on all the mobile devices, so iOS, Android, Windows Phone, and BlackBerry, as well the smartphones and tablets. So if you're using a mobile device and you want to do what I showed you here, there's there's definitely tools. There's also tools you can download to try them out from the Harmony website that run on all those platforms. Absolutely.
Okay. And if I move to Office 365, David, won't I get the functionality you showed here out of the box with my subscription?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So the answer is no. Even in the world of Office 365, email and documents live separately. There are really two, as I said, two fiefdoms that continue, or two silos that continue to exist. Emails remain in Exchange. They will be stored in Exchange. Documents continue to be stored in SharePoint, and that will not change in terms of the storage and how documents are retrieved. Those will remain the same even with Office 365.
Okay. David, can you point us to customers who are already using the capabilities you showed today?
Yeah, so one I'd like to highlight, there's a large number of customers who are already taking advantage of the kind of things I showed today. One that we've recently documented and has actually presented a very nice business case study is Aon, and you can see that on our website. So this was a European installation where they are using it to manage clients, and for knowledge retention, for a lot of the reasons that I described, being able to store emails easily so that they can be later found. People are out on vacation, people working in different offices need to be able to find information about clients, so that all the idea of storing the information, classifying it correctly, and being able to retrieve it quickly, as well as being able to produce it for all sorts of governmental and industry regulatory requirements is all part. Those are all part of the case study, and I invite you to view that on our website.
Okay, David, I have a question here. I'd like to store my emails with an attachment zip file. Is this possible, and could you explain how you do this?
So you can store emails with attachments as well. It's the same way. You just drag them in to the SharePoint window, and they are stored as part of that as well. Yes. Okay.
I have another question here, David. What do I need to do to have this connection of Exchange and SharePoint?
So that's an excellent question. Harmony is a client-side technology, so what you need to do is to just install the Harmony plugin in your Outlook, and you can download a free version of this to try this out from what you see from our website or from the QR code that'll be in the deck here. And there's really nothing that needs to be done on the back end to provide any of the capabilities that I showed today.
Okay. We've good asking, is this session being recorded? And I just want to let everyone know yet that the session is being recorded, and they'll receive an email at the end of the week with the webinar. We have a question here from Jonas. How does Harmony differ from how Office 365 or even Site Mailbox in SharePoint works?
Yeah, so as I said before, the storage of emails, what we're doing is literally using the same repository for storing emails, so all the ability and storing them as similar artifacts. So the ability of the metadata to be able to search, to be able to classify very easily. Site Mailboxes is really a pointer in SharePoint to where an email may be stored in Exchange. So it's not actually changing where the information is being stored. It still has two repositories. It has two separate silos. What it's really doing is just introducing a link to that document which is stored somewhere else. So it's not really a solution for combining, allowing you to store emails in the same repositories.
Okay.
And also the metadata. Also, one other thing is that the Site Mailboxes don't allow you to use any of the metadata to be able to find anything. So again, the classification is absolutely critical to being able to find the information, to being able to assign it easily, and then, of course, being able to retrieve it. So just having a link somewhere that you click on that goes somewhere else doesn't really solve any problem, because it's stored separately and you can't use it, you can't find it either, because there's no way to leverage the SharePoint metadata.
Okay, perfect. We have a ton of questions coming in, so we might just take another 2 or 3, David, if you don't mind. We have one question
that's fine.
here.
Well, we can follow up with the questions afterwards through email. We'll be happy to follow up with whichever ones we don't have time to get to.
Perfect. So we have a question here, David. Without subscription, can I test the scenario that you've done on this webinar?
Absolutely. Yep. You can just download the free version from the website. But you in order to get the mapping of the metadata, the classification, you'll need a professional license from Harmony. So you can test out some of the rudimentary capabilities, but for the mapping of the email headers to the SharePoint metadata, you'll need to engage with us to have us help you assist in setting that up with a professional license.
Okay. Can email attachments be stored separately, David?
Absolutely. Yeah, you have the choice of storing either attachments separately or as part of the email message, however way you want to set that up. Yep.
Is it possible to connect multiple SharePoint sites at the same time?
Yeah. Yeah, you can, any site that you have access to can be accessed through the Harmony window. You basically are either provisioned in a enterprise scenario, or you enter the URL if you're kind of on your own, and then you can just log into those sites, and you can access and traverse them and store and basically use them as you wish.
Okay, and we'll take one final question. So when you sync the documents data, is it stored in both Outlook and SharePoint?
Once again?
When you sync the documents data, is it stored in both Outlook and SharePoint?
Yeah, so that depends on how you really want to set it up. If you drag it over, you can have it so that the email stays, or you can also have it set to delete on upload. So that's really very flexible in terms of how your organization works. You can set it up for whatever your business requirements are.
Okay, perfect. Thanks very much, David, for answering all those questions. And if there's any follow-up questions, we'll make sure to get them answered over email as well. So for more top-quality training from the world's best speakers, look no further than Stockholm for European SharePoint Conference 2015. You can currently avail of the fantastic early bird offer and get a 3-day pass for the superb price of €1,100. But hurry, as the early booking offer ends on September 18th, so that's Friday week. Make sure to check www.sharepointeurope.com for more offers and information. So thank you all again for joining us today for this webinar, and hopefully you can join us again this week for more great webinars. Tomorrow we'll be joined by Patrick Hosh, who will be talking about workflows, and Malin Dandanel, who will be talking about new Office 365 features such as Groups, Delve, Sway, Yammer. You can register for these webinars using the link bit.ly/SP Training Week. This webinar is ended. Thanks very much, and hope to see you all soon.